everyone, welcome to Tropical Insights. We are your hosts. I'm Alexandra Revinthi.
I'm Germán Vargas.
Did you know that a lot of interesting things happen in South Florida? Very close to us, as close as in our backyards or in the nearby gardens? A tiny yet very beautiful butterfly some time ago almost went extinct. The Atala butterfly, which is a native butterfly of South Florida and the Caribbean region, was rediscovered in 1979 by Roger Hammer.
My name is Roger Hammer. I'm here to talk about the Atala butterfly, the Florida Atala butterfly. Back in 1965, it was presumed extinct in the Peterson's Field Guide to Butterflies of Eastern North America. And in 1979, I was on Virginia Key looking for seeds of a rare tree over there to grow. And I happened to notice some bright red larvae with yellow spots down their sides feeding on a plant called coontie. It's our only native cycad in Florida. And I wasn't sure what these caterpillars were, so I collected some, brought them home, raised them, and when they hatched out, they turned out to be the presumed extinct Florida Atala butterfly. So I took it upon myself to take a bunch of coontie plants out there where I found the butterflies. They laid eggs on those plants and I brought them home, and then I started raising large quantities of Atala butterflies and moving them around to various county preserves first, Fairchild Tropical Garden eventually, and then a biologist in Everglades National Park released them out there. And over the years, what's happened is it's been a really kind of a neat success story that gardeners have taken up planting coonties specifically to attract Florida Atala butterflies. It's a beautiful butterfly. It's kind of midnight blue with pale blue spots and an orange abdomen on them. And so now gardeners are planting coonties in their yard. The Atala is now being found in places that are well outside of its natural range in Florida, as far north as Gainesville, and they're up in Tampa and areas like that where they never historically occurred. But that's probably a good thing. And plus with climate change, it's probably good to have them, in areas outside of South Florida. So that's kind of it. It's a kind of a success story that's sort of been a benefit to not only to the Atala butterfly, but more people are planting the native coontie, which is itself a threatened species in Florida.
Roger Hammer did not only rediscover the Atala butterfly, but also his host plant, the coontie palm. The coontie palm is a prehistoric plant, meaning that it was here during the dinosaur era. How cool. And also it was considered an endangered species. It's also, by the way, the only native cycad on the whole US. Sandy Coy is one of the people that has been working in this case the most.
My name is Sandy Coy, and I am now a postdoc from Florida International University. I got my doctorate in Atala butterfly colony dynamics, basically, and the primary thing I looked at was the citizen science involvement, which is urban conservation. So that's what's really neat about being here. Really, there wasn't a whole lot of anything done with the butterfly for about 20 years. And again, the reason was because it was so rare, it was so hard to find. Now, I want to emphasize this, and I think you need to call this out too. The butterfly is not endangered by the federal government, and it's a good thing, because if it was, none of us would be able to do anything about it, and I would probably be extinct. I'm sorry, forgive me, but that's my opinion on it. So the butterfly is not endangered, threatened, or vulnerable. It was sort of vulnerable with the state of Florida back in the early 2000s, 1999, when they came out with a number of species who they considered highly vulnerable species of special concern. So the butterfly was listed in that, and I thought it was 1999 or 2000, something like that. But the fact is that because it is a butterfly that's highly adaptable to gardens, This is where urban conservation comes in. This is the reason we still have the butterfly. And because it wasn't listed as any of those factors, we were allowed to do something about it. So in 2000, I want to say 2001, I was working with Audubon, and I was walking with a bunch of school children, and I came across the butterfly in a colony that the city has since destroyed. So I'm not going to even go further than that. But I was so excited to find the butterfly, and that started my research because I was just enthralled. And this is what everybody does this. You just get captured by this absolutely gorgeous creature. And the history, the more I learned about the history, the more fascinated I became. Then a friend of mine who works in Miami-Dade County natural areas, and he's still there, he contacted me and said, hey, the head of the biology department in Everglades National Park, who was Sue Perry at that time, is trying to reintroduce the butterfly into the park because we do have it listed. Someone had said the butterfly was there in the 30s. So we had records that it was there. Sue got federal permission to reintroduce the butterfly. At that same time, this is a serendipitous story, I also got a small grant to reintroduce the butterfly and document the locations of the butterfly and the host plants. So this was a massive collaboration, and I met with Sue, and so we started this reintroduction program. Now, in certain areas, again, because of the severe herbivory, there were certain locations and parks, particularly, I have to say, in Palm Beach, that would say, come and get this caterpillar out of here. It's ruining our plants. It look terrible. And of course, the plants were installed as ornamentals, you know, so they're beautiful cycads, and they just are beautiful and green and pretty, and they're native. And so agencies would plant the coontie, and then the caterpillar, the butterfly would find the coontie, and that would be the end of that story. So I would go and collect caterpillars from any place that called me. Particularly, there were some areas in Palm Beach, and again, I'm not going to name them. Some areas in Broward County, some places in Miami, like Montgomery. Come and get these caterpillars out of here. We don't want them. And so that worked really well. So I took like 14,000 caterpillars and pupae down to Everglades National Park for Sue. And we introduced them all over the park. Not appear that any of those survived because we were not finding them. And then the thought was, well, maybe they're deep in the pines, and we don't know. But we kind of determined in that process that maybe it was the lack of nectar. The thing is, if you allow people the opportunity to participate in this, you know, I interviewed people, and you know, there were some basic answers. You know, they wanted to undo a historical wrong. They wanted to plant for a species that was virtually extinct. They wanted to reestablish native vegetation. They wanted to teach other people and children. And you know, some of them got involved in reintroduction back in the early, like like 2011, 12. They got involved because they had their children involved. And so they took their kids out and counted butterflies. I mean, it was just an amazing thing.
It is fascinating how the conservation of a species that almost gone extinct can take place at the scale of our gardens. At the Miami-Dade Extension Office, the Florida-friendly landscaping promotes a sustainable environment in our urban areas. There, Dalton Goolsby works and promotes sustainable environments in the urban landscape.
Hello, my name is Dalton Goolsby. I'm the supervisor of the Urban Horticulture Program here in Miami-Dade County. I consider myself the butterfly guy of the office. Butterfly garden here at the UF IFAS Extension Office. This garden in particular hosts over 10 species of butterflies in this one small area. So imagine all the butterflies you could host at your own home garden. For instance, 3 butterflies that I know of will lay their eggs on this desert cassia here. We've got the coonties under there for the Atala. A lot of nectar sources in here, but other sources we have for butterflies to lay their eggs include this sunshine mimosa, We've got some milkweed back in there. All kinds of things here basically just to provide for the butterflies in our landscape. So if you want to learn more about gardening for butterflies in South Florida, go on YouTube and look up the In Your Backyard series, Butterflies in Your Backyard. And there's all kinds of resources and plant suggestions and things like that in there to get you jump started on your butterfly journey.
Sometimes the recovery of the populations of the Atala butterfly can represent heavy damage on our coontie plants. And just remember that we are trying to protect both. So a strategy will be to move some larvae from highly infested areas to other areas so they can develop and we can protect the butterflies and also the coontie palms. Vicente Ramirez is the site curator from the Montgomery Botanical Center.
My name is Vicente Ramirez. I work at Montgomery Botanical Center, and today we're here at the UF Extension. We're putting some Atala butterflies on the Zuzemia integrifolia. The Atala butterfly is a beautiful butterfly that is native to Miami and northern areas of Florida. Although thought extinct, once we now have an abundance of it at Montgomery Botanical Center because we plant a lot of Zamia plants, different species, and they don't really discriminate over the native one over the other international ones.
So conservation can happen at the level of our gardens and our backyards. Bimba Magdes, a Miami-Dade resident and also a master gardener, can tell us more about her Atala colony at her place and also more about Florida-friendly landscaping.
Hi, my name is Vilma Valdez. I am a master gardener with the University of Florida Homestead Extension. When I purchased the place in July of 2000, and the previous owner was walking me around, she showed me a coontie plant. That was my first time seeing a coontie plant. It was beautiful. It was like 3 feet by 3 feet. And she was telling me that it was a larval host plant for the Atala butterfly. And well, later when I bought the house, I Googled Atala butterfly and I was smitten. I thought, oh, this is so pretty. I have to have it. And that started me with introducing the caterpillars to get the Atalas. However, that took me 6 different introductions over 15 years to have the Atala colony that I have today. So in 2019 is when I officially started having an Atala colony year-round. I did not know it was going to be so challenging. I just found it very pretty, and later I find that it's imperiled, and that is why I was having that they were not taken to the yard the same way as a zebra butterfly or the Gulf fritillary or the swallowtail. That one was more challenging, and I had to make changes to the way I was planting, and I had to make along the way so that they would stay. So I did not know, I learned, and it became a challenge. I was going to do this, and perseverance, right? I think it's twofold. And we start with the larval host plant, the coontie. Before development, we almost eradicated the coontie to extinction. The plant was being harvested for food as a starch. So they kept harvesting, and then without coontie, there's no Atala. So we start with, there was no coonties left. Then when they found that there was some Atalas left and the nursery started harrying coonties and people like me started planting the coonties, I realized, well, the coonties are slow growers, very slow growers. So it doesn't flush out as readily when the caterpillars eat it. And you have to, it's very slow process. So that is the coontie part of what makes it difficult. Add the Atalas. The Atalas are challenging adding it to the equation because one, they have episodic eruptions and crashes in their population sizes. So when the coonties are flushing with new growth, the butterflies are mating and lay their eggs, and the caterpillars, being caterpillars, they eat, they're little eating machines. And the way they work is they eat, and when there's no more to eat, they crash and they move on. to the next patch of coonties, which is natural in the habitat that they're from. However, we don't have coonties like we used to have coonties. So now when they crash and they leave, for example, I live in a neighborhood that there's no other coonties. So when they were crashing, they left, but there's no more coonties anywhere in my neighborhood, and they did not come back the next year. They didn't come back to spring of next year because they were gone. So that is the challenge. That's the challenge, that the eruptions and crashes. And what the other thing that adds to that problem is that we're talking about a small butterfly that's a weak flyer. They're not strong flyers. They can fly, but they fly short distances. So they're not going to go miles. They're not going to Fort Lauderdale. They need something nearby to go find coonties. And if there's not coonties nearby, that crash is permanent. I have taught a couple of classes at the public library on plants for pollinators, and one of the subject matters that we touch on is friendly landscaping, and in particular here, it's Florida friendly landscaping. And what does that mean to us? That is what it sounds like. It's a synchronized relationship between us and the environment, where you are planting and it's a win-win situation. You start seeing the results because I plant that which is acclimated to the environment. So for example, we have the rainy season now, but we have a dry season in the winter so we have wet and dry. So a plant that's acclimated that you plant today, come November, December, January, is not going to be suffering because there's no rain. Why? Because it's acclimated. It knows that it's okay with the rainy season and the dry season. So you get things that are comfortable with the environment we have. Something else that people don't take into account when you have to plant is that the soil. All soils are not the same. What do we have in South Florida? Sand. Lots of sand. It's sandy soil. So get a plant that's acclimated to sand so that when you plant it, you don't have to be fertilizing it. The same thing with the rain. If it's not raining, you don't have to be out there with the hose. You don't have to have a sprinkler system going. I don't have a sprinkler system, okay? Because I don't need it. Because my plants are not going to be asking me for more water. My plants are not going to wanting me to fertilize them. They are happy with what they're getting. Nothing is more acclimated to this environment than native plants. Nothing. If you get pleasure in seeing pollinators, butterflies, I truly believe that this is only a 1/4 acre lot right here. And in a 1/4 acre lot, I am able to bring back or to feel that there's no shortages of pollinators. When we turn on the news or we read a paper, it's hard not to run into articles about bees, populations crashing over here. Landscape is being poisoned, pesticides, pollution, that what you do in your little lot can make a difference. One garden at a time. I feel hopeful that it doesn't have to be with population die-offs, because I can see that my garden is teeming with life. I have life surrounding me in this little 1/4 acre lot. So I know that if I can do it, you can do it too.
So, this is a story of urban conservation in our gardens and landscape. Let's keep in mind that protecting the environment means protecting ourselves. If you like these episodes and other episodes of the Tropical Insights, please leave your comments and thoughts. If you also want to receive more notifications and information from our scientists here at the Tropical Research and Education Center, you can subscribe in our YouTube channel, UF Trek. Thank you and hope to see you again.